All right, so I'm speaking like this because I enjoy speaking like this, all right? I recorded over, I don't know, 30 or 40 minutes of valuable, insightful content. Why? Because it's complicated and I got all kinds of things that I'm thinking about and inventing and things of that sort, okay? And it's Shabbos. I had to record for Shabbos because there's so much information contained in it. And the actual invention that's valuable in the known world based on things from antiquity and the rabbis and the sayings and things like that, and modern day inventions and my own ability to design and basically build some things that aren't unique. I thought they were unique, but now potentially they actually are unique. Why? Because it's called predictive security, and there's correlations to what's called FinTech startups. In other words, if you're looking at when you're first starting learning information, let's say you're design something and you think it's great, and you talk to other people that say, yeah, I've never seen that before, it actually works slightly better, that's great. And then you meet other people or know about other people, read articles and say, wow, that's good, but that guy over there, he's about 40 or 50 years ahead of you and you didn't even know it. It's like, oh, okay, well, not bad. These guys thought I was great, now I gotta whatever. So in other words, I didn't know some of the things weren't necessarily, they were unique, believe it or not, extremely unique, enough to merit reading of other articles and other things that were extremely unique. The designs are incredible in my meager opinion. I've come across something. It's a pending invention. It's based on negotiations of current and future global contracts, to say it humbly, for all kinds of things, commodities, pricing of everything, for both small and potentially medium and large companies, countries, and things of that sort. The problem is that it has to be, it's permission based and it has to be adopted. So, for example, let's say if you look at social media, any software engineer or developer going to say, well, I can build that in a day or two. They actually now have templates for most of that stuff nowadays, and that's great. Then you have an adoption conundrum. Well, probably a lot of these large companies, juggernaut companies, the big ones that exist, blue chip stocks that people invest into every day, and they've made, and the $1 trillion based economies are based in, believe it or not, work with most likely regulatory agencies and things of that sort, and have permissions. Like, so for example, the Patriot Act from a long time ago was a big one, a conundrum for me, and I'm thinking, like, I didn't really like that, but apparently somebody said somewhere that for the sake of airport security and other security measures and predictive economies of scale, so people can eat globally as population rises, these things are meagerly important. I was like, well, here I am, a Johnny come lately to the I wasn't born in the 1940s as a computer scientist like some people's fathers or something like that. Mine kind of was, but they were religious. Both sides were religious. Now I have a little bit of an in with the military stuff because of my grandfather, and I have an in with the religious community because of my other grandfathers, basically. And I have an in with inventors because of one of my grandfathers. But they're a generation or two removed. You're necessarily that aren't. You see what I mean? If you have to look at my family history, it's not bad, but there's other people with better profile. And the point is that what this does, in a real way, potentially, it contributes to the known aggregated information sets that are important to classical computing and quantum computing. In the future, you're going to see quantum computing. It's already important in the world. Everybody should know that there's a portion of that world that is studied about that. Where you can read a couple of articles and say, wow, that's probably relatively important. But the conundrum is contributing accurate and valuable aggregated information sets that would assist some of these security wonk companies that already exist in their decision making. It's called I'm not going to say accurate profiling or attempting to solve pre-crime. It's called predictive security, based on a number of processes. I'm not going to explain it in minute detail. Some people could probably figure it out. Some people probably can't. But it's my idea. I can build everything with what I have today. The conundrum is that there's a what's the connection between the perceived value and the actualized value, and as a meager peon in the world, maybe a pawn on the chessboard, maybe a rook or bishop at times on the chessboard, maybe not even on the chessboard. Sometimes I had to try to figure out how to play AlphaGo, and that was good luck. Some of these people are really, really smart, and they've only done these things their entire life. And so they have a perception of being really brainy, and they are, don't get me wrong, but they may or may not have thought about the things the way that I have thought about it and designed and built. And so, do you see my conundrum? So the page is listed at, it's at Automation Anytime. It's permission-based with predictive analytics system, so to speak. And it's also, a portion of that's also contained within the FinTech startup area because there's it doesn't necessarily, it could be valuable to those things in the future, but the immediate value is most likely predictive, permission-based predictive processes that are based in reward-based things. So users will use will adopt, and because the conundrum with these Patriot Acts, did you as an average American citizen or global citizen or whatever agree to that? No, you may or may not have voted for somebody, and whoever they are, you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying, the whole 1984 Orson Welles Big Brother and things like that. I mean, they kind of alluded to that in some of the books and the generate about what, but I was like, you know what, there might be a slightly better way that might appease the people as they become more educated, supposedly become more educated about some of the things going on. So that way there's a more of a, what's called an efficacy in the world rather than this laissez-faire, what am I, like, is my world over because whoever said this about this, that, and the other, and they had a different opinion at the time, and now if and when the opinion changes, what am I supposed to do about it? You know what I mean? So anyways, it's a little bit complicated and perplexing. And Baruch Hashem, thank you to my brother. He has not yet officially agreed to be the general manager. I'm trying to get him to follow some of these things, but we had some conversations. It was really insightful. He's a brilliant dude. He didn't say much, but he asked some good questions that assisted me in identifying various investments. If you read some of the investment paperwork about contracts and things like that, it made me realize meagerly about why some decisions were made in for some countries and people and things like that. So, for example, at the time, it seemed like a great deal. But if I had known 10 to 15 years later about the consumerization of IT or the commodities of IT, what's the value in the modern day and how quickly did the value change? If I had thought about that at the time, a different decision may have been, an entirely different scenario would have existed, especially in my life and in the life of others as well. So, so this is why I'm making some of these recordings. And thanks for listening to my subscribers, my users. I'm still seeking a sizable investment with a good name, of somebody with a good name, and I also have a pretty good name, believe it or not. But some of those things can be modified and improved potentially over time as we realize the value of some of these inventions and some of these designs. Anyways, again, my name is Andrew C. Graham or Andy Graham, and thanks for listening.